Soaking up the sun. It's a favorite pastime during the summer, but let's not forget about the dangers of the sun on our body, and not just on our skin. The sun can be damaging to our eyes.
You can get a photokeratitis, which is like a sunburn to the eye.
We're also debunking some common sunscreen myths.
Unless you're living in like a bunker with no UV exposure at all, no windows, you need sunscreen.
And later in the show, nothing like kicking back a few cocktails in the summer heat, but beware of margarita burn. We'll show you the ingredient that does not mix well with the sun. It's all about the dangers of the sun straight ahead on this week's edition of Prescription for Life. Hello, and thank you so much for joining us. I'm Monica Robbins. The sun certainly has its advantages, from vitamin D to boosting your mood, even helping with your sleep. But its powerful rays can be damaging, especially for our eyes. We'll get to that in just a moment with our expert. But first, you've probably seen something like this in the weather segment of your local TV news, the UV or ultraviolet index. But what does it mean for you and protecting yourself? Overexposure during days with high UV values can be harmful, both in the short term and over long term. Abby Lorico with Verify breaks it all down.
Warm days and glowing evenings. The summer sun brings a lot of good to the season, but it also means stronger ultraviolet or UV rays. We turn to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA, their meteorologist, Laura Siasto, and the EPA to verify what you need to know about using the UV index for sun safety. NOAA is a branch of the National Weather Service. Just like precipitation and temperature, it tracks UV radiation in locations across the U.S.
Typically, that forecast is made for solar noon of the next day, when we are expecting the UV radiation likely to be strongest.
The strength of those rays is measured using the UV index. A forecast on the low end of the scale, 0 through 5, means fewer damaging rays with less risk for most people, according to NOAA, which explains scores of level 6 or greater indicate significant damage from the sun can happen quickly. People who are more likely to get sunburn or are on medications or use creams that make them more sun sensitive might experience worse effects at lower UV levels. The EPA has a free mobile app where you can enter your zip code and find the hour-by-hour UV forecast where you live.
You're getting into what we call the purple values of our UV index. That's when we're recommending that you just stay indoors in the shade.
The EPA, warning of the known risk of health consequences of sun damage, encourages people to limit their time outside between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m., the hours of the day with the strongest UV potential. The UV levels on any given day are based on a few factors, including cloud cover, ozone layer thickness, reflection from surfaces like sand and snow, elevation, and pollution. Places closer to the equator and where the Earth's summertime tilt shorten the distance to the sun log higher UV levels.
The UV radiation is kind of looking for the path of least resistance.
You don't have to burn to experience sun damage. It's why dermatologists recommend lathering up with sunscreen even on cloudy days and wearing sunglasses to prevent UV damage to your eyes. But remember, the UV index is ultimately another tool to help you stay informed and enjoy your summer days outside. With your Verify, I'm Abby Lorico.
Now, our expert clears up any confusion about the sun and our eyes and how to protect them during the summer months. Joining me now is Dr. Nicole Bayich, who is an ophthalmologist with Cleveland Clinic. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, we are talking about protecting your eyes in the summer, and of course, that comes with sunglasses, cheap sunglasses. Can we do it?
So it depends. You know, surprisingly, I have tested them myself and found that some of them actually do have some UV protection. However, you know, it's really hard to say, and for the average person, you're not going to know. So I do tend to think that it's better to go for, you know, trusted brands, and you want to look for 100% UV protection or UV 400. So those are the darker filters. You might see some lighter colored lenses. Typically, those have, you know, less filter protection, but look for the 100% UV or UV 400 logos as your best bet.
So UVA, UVB, what's the difference?
So they're just different types of UV rays, but the biggest key is to get the darkest filter, so that 100% UV protection is best.
Okay, so does polarized matter?
Yeah, so polarization is actually really important, but it can more than filtering out the UV rays, it actually just helps eliminate some of the light scatter that you see. So what that translates to is less glare. So when you're working outdoors or if you're driving, it can be really tough when the bright sun is out in summer, and it can be unsafe when you're squinting. But the polarization actually filters out some of those scattered light rays, so that it makes it safer for you to look and see what you need to see.
Everybody wants the glasses, like the aviators are really cool right now, but what about the glasses that, they still have room for the sun to get down on top? Does that matter?
Sure. So right now it's actually trendy to have the smaller 90s style sunglasses, but you're right, where there's a lot of exposure where, sunlight and other things can be getting in. So, if you're, participating in sports or other activities like a motorcycle, that's actually an area where stuff can fly into your eyes. So bigger is actually better in terms of eye protection.
Who's most at risk for sun damage to your eyes?
So, people who are, outdoors a lot, or if you have any eye conditions that could predispose you to it, like, things with your cornea or retina, in terms of, what can actually go wrong. So you can get a photokeratitis, which is like a sunburn to the eye. You can also get, damage to your cornea and lens. So you can see cataract progression. And there's also, as we know from the eclipse, solar retinopathy. So lots of things that you want to protect from. One key thing too is, we're so in tune with the idea of needing to use sunscreen to protect our skin from skin cancer, but you should know that we can also get eye cancer, and so it's actually really important to use sunglasses with good UV protection so you can avoid or cut your risk of eye cancers.
Does your eye color matter?
Great question. So in terms of light sensitivity, we do see that people with lighter eyes tend to be more light sensitive.
So when you go to buy sunglasses, everybody looks at fashion first. Bottom line, the three things you should really look for when you're going to buy sunglasses, what should they be?
So number one, you want to make sure that they have the right filter. So UV 400 or 100% UV protection. If you are needing it to cut down on glare, look for polarization. I do think that the bigger lenses can be better in terms of offering, more physical protection. Some people really like the wraparounds too, to help avoid, risk of things from getting in from the sides. And make sure that it's comfortable, because if it's not comfortable and you don't like it, you're not going to wear it.
What about the glasses that are yellow? Do those make a difference? They're supposed to cut down glare while you're driving, or maybe the dusk and dawn glasses?
Great question. I have some patients who aren't quite ready for cataract surgery yet, but want a little something extra to cut down on glare. I'm fine with it, but those typically don't have UV protection, and you'll have to check the label, because anything, can have its own specific filter depending on the brand. So it's fine for cutting down on glare, but if you're going to use it outdoors, and just be aware of whether or not it has sun protection, because most don't.
Darker lenses, better lenses?
It can be. So, we'll see typically with the better UV protection sunglasses, they will be darker. But, you can have dark lenses that don't offer any UV protection. So it's really important that you do your research on the brand that you're buying.
And even you can find the polarized and the UV protection at the gas station if you do your homework and look.
Yeah. The polarized lenses, those are going to be those mirrored type of lenses. So, that's the easy way to tell them apart.
Awesome. All right. Eye diseases, anything we need to watch for in the summer?
Yeah, so, again, make sure you're not staring directly into the sun, and then using the UV protection, that's really important. One of the things I didn't touch on, the pterygium, so it's surfer's eye, but just that sun exposure can cause a growth, to come over the eye too. So that's another thing to watch out for.
Can you have that removed? Like, what do you do for it?
Yeah, we remove it with surgery, or sometimes we just watch them.
Does the sun cause cataracts to develop faster?
Yes, great question. But also, it just happens with age. So I tell everyone that we're all going to need cataract surgery if you live long enough, and I hope I get cataract surgery too. But there are things that can make it, speed up a little faster. One being sun, smoking, hyperbaric oxygen, and a lot of other conditions too.
All right, Dr. Bayich, as always, great advice. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Still ahead, much more on Prescription for Life, including the dangers of mixing lime juice and the sun. And we're debunking some popular sunscreen myths.
Unless you're living in like a bunker with no UV exposure at all, no windows, you need sunscreen.
Welcome back. We're talking about the dangers of the sun, especially for our eyes. Now, earlier, Dr. Bayich talked about cataracts. And according to the World Health Organization, there are 15 million people in the world who are blind from cataracts. And for up to 10% of these individuals, the cause of many of their conditions may have been exposure to ultraviolet radiation.
Yeah, I've got a model here to show. Here's an eyeball model. And I'm going to take off the top here. The front of the eye is the cornea. So behind that is a colored part of the eye, the iris, and behind that is a cataract. This is a lens, and as we age, starting at about age 40, it starts to get more and more cloudy, more for some people than others. And when this thing gets cloudy, not much you can do. Here's the lens. You can't repair this. There's no medicine, no treatment. You have to take it out and put in a new one. Now, there's several different types of cataract replacements you can put in. One will allow you to see it closer a lot better. One will allow you to see farther a lot better. Some people will get one or the other, or one for close-up, one for distance. That can be tricky for some people. If you've got astigmatism, where the cornea is a little bit malshapen, that's what I had, you have to have a different lens called Toric. That fixes that. And the newer lenses right now, they can actually be adjusted up or down for distance and far. They tell me sometimes that works well, sometimes doesn't. So the main thing is talk to your doctor. If you need cataracts, talk to your doctor. He or she will help you pick out the best ones for you.
A new cataract procedure introduced at one hospital in Jacksonville, Florida, allows for your lenses to be changed with UV light, making your eyesight more precise. Renata Di Gregorio shows us how it works.
They're pretty nice glasses, actually.
Forget rose-colored glasses. George Wilson has been viewing life through ultraviolet light protecting sunglasses for about 6 weeks, he says.
It's, a little inconvenient for a couple months, maybe a little less than a couple months, but it's well worth it in the long run.
Perfect, just like that.
Wilson is one of the first patients at Florida Eye Specialists doing a procedure new to the First Coast. Cataract surgery removes your eye's cloudy lens and replaces it. What's new? Wilson got his replaced with a lens that can be changed with UV light to make his vision more precise.
In a very non-invasive, easy way, we can change someone's life.
Jacksonville ophthalmologist Dr. Amit Chokshi says the procedure only takes 2 to 3 minutes in about 3 separate sessions. They had their first patient do it last month.
And then their prescription stays with them the rest of their life.
He says their 13 surgeons already do up to 15 cataract cases a week. About half of all Americans have cataracts by age 75, according to the American Academy of Ophthalmology.
I'm seeing perfectly now.
And once the sunglasses come off, he'll see a brighter world, too.
Doctors say no matter what you're doing, you should also wear sunscreen on your face to prevent burns on your eyelids or the sensitive skin around your eyes. And speaking of sunscreen, there are so many different kinds on the market. Which one should you choose? How often should you apply it? And who should be applying it? Jeremy Baker debunks some of those common myths.
When you're applying for the first time, it is important probably to choose a cream because you can actually control how much of that goes onto your skin.
Dr. Jimenez Cervantes is a skin clinic physician within University Health. She says SPF 30 sunscreen is the target.
30 is the minimum that has been shown to be efficient in protecting our skin against the sun.
Going higher than 30 will protect you more, but more important is reapplying.
Especially when you're outdoors, you're swimming, you're going to be sweating. Important thing is to kind of rinse off and reapply every 2 hours.
Here are some popular sunscreen myths. People don't think they need sunscreen because they are not outside.
Unless you're living in like a bunker with no UV exposure at all, no windows, you need sunscreen. Even the small little moments that you're going from your car to the grocery store, from your car to work, those accumulate over a lifetime.
You don't have to wear sunscreen on cloudy days or in the winter.
Even on a cloudy, rainy day, winter, every day the UV rays penetrate through those clouds.
And finally, people with darker skin do not need sunscreen.
I think that is a common misconception that we don't need to protect our skin as much, but tanning, you get a little bit darker when you're out in the sun. That is burning. So that is affecting your skin in the long term.
Knocking back a few cocktails this summer may be fun and relaxing, but there is nothing fun about a wicked rash. I took a look at why margaritas and some other summer cocktails just don't mix with the sun. Nothing better than a summer cocktail with a wedge of lime, but beware, that tasty citrus juice does not mix well with the sun, especially if you get it on your skin.
About 24 to 48 hours later, you'll notice some redness. It might be painful, might blister in those exact areas where it was exposed. And then those blisters and the redness will fade, but you might have some dark skin there that could be there for months or even years later.
It's called phytophotodermatitis and can happen to anyone. It's a skin reaction to certain types of plants, including citrus, like limes, lemons, and oranges. But even celery and parsley can cause it.
Getting the juice of the lime on you, the rind of the lime has much more of these phytocoumarins. Those are the chemicals that potentiate the sun's effects on our skin. And they have about 10 times as much of the chemical as the pulp or the juice in there. But the juice does have it also. So either contact with either one could produce that.
It can happen in about 5 minutes of sun exposure. And because it doesn't happen immediately, most people think they've been exposed to poison ivy. How do you treat it?
I want to try not to pop the blister because that would increase your risk of infection. You could put some Vaseline on it. If you were to catch it early enough and it's bad enough, actually high doses of vitamin D might be helpful.
So best advice, keep your hands covered while you're cutting citrus in the sun. The reaction usually lasts about 2 to 3 days before it goes away on its own. Now remember to enjoy summer, but please do it safely. That'll do it for this week's edition of Prescription for Life. Thank you so much for watching. We'll be back here with another dose next week. Until then, I'm Monica Robbins wishing you and yours good health.